Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Body and Mind Strong podcast. My name is Renee, your host and integrated wellness coach. My mission with Body and Mind Strong is to help active, busy women like yourself reclaim their health, strength, and sense of self in a sustainable way that fits their life. This episode of Body and Mind Strong is going to be a little different and one I'm especially honored to share. I have the privilege of being part of creating Athena's Listening Crew, a brand new podcast dedicated to supporting women business owners and holding space for them both professionally and personally. Episodes cover various topics from business to self-care and personal growth, but our favorite ones are where we interview women and learn all about them and their journey to and through entrepreneurship. This specific episode that I'm going to share, we have a powerful conversation with Amanda, founder and owner of Loving My Skin Spa. I wanted to highlight this one specifically as I feel she really embodies the body and mind concept. Hope you enjoy. If this conversation resonates with you, please check out Athena's Listening Crew on your favorite streaming platforms. And you can also find us on YouTube and Instagram at Athena's Listening Crew for more inspiring stories like this one. Welcome to Athena's Listening Crew segment on She Did That, where women don't just dream it, they build it. On today's episode, we interview Amanda Schneider, who is living proof that our greatest challenges can become powerful catalysts for change. A domestic violence and cancer survivor, she transformed her healing journey into a mission of empowerment, helping others discover their strength, beauty, and resilience.
Today, Amanda is an internationally awarded esthetician and proud owner of Loving My Skin Spa and Skin Nerd training. She is known affectionately as the Skin Nerd and combines ingredient science with a holistic approach to skincare, believing true radiance comes from nurturing the whole person. Through her spa, her training programs, her leadership and aesthetics education, and her women's empowerment retreats, Amanda's message is simple but powerful. You are stronger than you know, and you deserve to love the skin you're in, literally and figuratively. So without further ado, let's begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Athena's Listening Crew. I'm Renee.
And I'm Lena. And today we have a special guest, our first ever on this podcast. Yay. And it is Amanda Schneider. She is a owner of Loving My Skin Spa in Litchfield, Arizona. She is a holistic skincare esthetician and wellness expert. Now, keep up with me. She is a Reiki master, an oncology trained esthetician, a nutritional aesthetics practitioner, licensed herbalist, reflexologist, certified menopause coach, life coach, art therapy practitioner, and is currently working on becoming an integrated holistic health practitioner. Okay, I gotta take a breath there. So she is a certified, in my eyes, in my experience, because I've been a client of hers for like 4 years now, a certified skin nerd to the T. So here is Amanda Schneider, and welcome, Amanda. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you.
Yes, welcome. So am I, because Lena has known Amanda for several years, and I'm just getting to know Amanda. So I'm really excited about this interview and just to find out more about you and your companies and just everything about you.
Perfect. Happy to share.
First off, can you tell us a little bit about where you come from, where you're, a little bit about your background, family?
So I grew up in Kansas, so I have those, deep Midwestern roots. And I will say I don't have the white picket fence upbringing. Unfortunately, I did have a parent that struggled with alcohol addiction, and just really couldn't be the parent that I needed. And as a result, I saw my other parent kind of shrivel, and really not challenge or anything like that. So it's kind of behaviors that I learned. So growing up, it was always that I want the attention. I need somebody to see and love me because everything else was so ugly. Mm-hmm. And because of that, I became hyper perfectionist, almost to a point of fault where nothing was ever in that good enough stage. So, straight A student, principal's honor roll, go away to college. And because my family worked blue collar, it was one of those where like I was drilled, you have to become a doctor or a lawyer if you want to be happy, because if you have money, then you're happy. So when I went away to school, I went into law school, and it absolutely made me miserable. I didn't like how it challenged my morals and my ethics. And when it comes to like the criminal justice realm, it's not about what's right and what's wrong. It's kind of who tells the better narrative or who has a better story. And being caught up in that, it really kind of pushed me away from that, because so much of my life was all about telling a story. And I knew it was all false, because, I wanted I got my mom and my dad until they got divorced. But, I didn't want anybody to see the ugly side or all the secrets that I was hiding. So I became really good at just telling my own little story and seeing that reflected in a career that, it can literally wreck somebody's entire life because somebody tells a different narrative other than the truth. That just didn't sit well with me. So I just started working for the courts. I stopped pursuing my law degree and went working for the courts, just trying to help people understand how to navigate through that. And unfortunately, when you are a court employee, you don't get to give legal advice. You can't tell them how to do something. And seeing so many people come in with, unfortunately, similar backgrounds to what I was experiencing in my marriage, it really, again, having that mirror reflected right back at me, seeing the struggles that they were having and feeling like nobody was there. That really kind of pushed me, where I was like, you know what? No, I do something where I am helping people. It's no longer about, standing in shame and, lying and creating some fairy tale story, because that was never, at that point, that was never going to be my life. So I enrolled in aesthetic school, and helping people feel good and giving them that option to just check out, have somebody else take care of you, really kind of hit a sweet spot. And from that, all those, and unfortunately, Lena, you didn't even get all the certifications.
No, I know I didn't.
It would be far too long. But one certification led to another, and I started building my own empowerment and kind of building more of that standing on my own. And then, seeing clients that were having to deal with some of the same struggles that I was doing really kind of made me realize I needed to be real with myself. So in my marriage at that time, I was a rag doll. In fact, to this day, I still have pictures of the last time my shoulder was dislocated and I was thrown to the ground. So that is like my reminder of all that muck that I was in, and honoring myself. Once I actually got out of that relationship and finally got to the point where I was ready to leave, I was just like, you know what? Society's going to judge me because they're like, oh, you stayed too long. Why'd you deal with that? And I wanted to stand up for the people that were too scared to take that chance. So then I started actually talking about my story, started talking about the manipulation, the lies, I call them the echo word. So like the manipulation that was thrown out at me at one point. For instance, I was told, you'll never be enough. You'll never be enough for anybody. And so enough was a trigger word for me. And because it just constantly, just like if you're yelling it into an aluminum can, it just keeps echoing and coming back to you. And so that actually held me back in my career, because I was like, never going to be enough. And it wasn't until, with all these certifications and working with all these incredible clients and seeing them grow from the little tidbits and, having a safe place to actually work through those, it was through my clients that I found my own strength to be like, you know what? The only person in the world I have to be enough for is me. So everybody else may not be enough for me, and that's okay. But first and foremost, I have to focus on being enough for me. So then dove in and literally just started adding every possible certification that could help me and then help clients. So that's when I started delving into like the nutrition, the mental health, the mindfulness exercises, and getting people to understand that the ugliness of our past does not define what we're capable of. We're just starting in a darker place, but that means that we appreciate that light so much more. more.
Definitely. Oh, you just gave me chills and like
I know.
this whole time. And I'm so glad you told us the story because that is definitely, I mean, you definitely went through a lot. And just in starting off in the beginning, that expectation, the family, you were supposed to be a doctor, you were supposed to be a lawyer if you were going to make anything of yourself. And or it's not necessarily making anything of yourself. It's, we were definitely raised, most of us were raised with that expectation that you have to do something. I was raised with the expectation you needed to get a job that had a pension. And that was what was ingrained into me. But I'm so glad. Thank you for telling us that part of your story.
Yes.
So
Yeah, and I just admire you for the resilience that it just seems like you picked yourself back up, because to be in an abusive relationship, it can just be such a detriment to who you are as a being. And there's so many men out there that feel their value gets stripped away from it with every slap, with every punch, with every pain that comes through their body. And you have changed that narrative of, yeah, it's there. And it's a reminder for me that look how the strength that you have, like what you have overcome and what you are able to do and how you are able to stand up and change and just completely change your perspective. And then to get into some past doing something to bring joy to others. So this is why I love you,
Yeah,
dear.
I was going to say, I will say, like, I've had to brush myself off a good dozen plus times. So, it's one of those where you're like, yeah, I'm going. And then you're like, oh, crap. And then, a trigger word gets hit or like so once I finally left the abusive relationship, like I had this like, yes, I am doing for me. And I literally was renting a room from a friend. Like I wasn't standing on my own, but I definitely didn't feel comfortable being on my own after that. And because of the repeat dislocations, I knew like the normal healing process that comes from the shoulder dislocation. And that last one just was not healing. It wasn't doing things the normal way. And so I kept, pressing the doctors. I was just like, something isn't right. And so we went through and started doing diagnostic testing. And see, it was 34 days after I left my husband, I was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. So I had bone cancer. And ironically, which I didn't end up learning until years later, but it was in the same shoulder that was repeatedly dislocated. So, there are wonderful books like, The Body Keeps the Score and stuff like that. I heartily believe it was all that emotional trauma and all that guarding that I was doing. And all it takes is one little mutated cell and things just go haywire. So, I was no longer in the house with my kids. Both my kids were grown. I no longer had a husband and I had my life like flash before me. And, I was in my first year and a half of owning my business. So, still very much just ground root. So it was one of those where I was like, do I give up or do I fight? And I mean, I fought every freaking tooth and nail. I mean, I went through multiple oncologists because this is the way we're going to do it. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm not willing to do. And so even at that point, I started finding a voice and I was okay walking away from people that didn't want to listen to my voice. So it probably sounds ridiculous, but getting cancer actually helped me find my voice and stand for myself. So even though it was such an ugly, turn of events and, just in a matter of a couple months, everything fell apart. I think I needed to fall apart in order to have that introspection to start rebuilding and, finding my voice and learning. My big thing was learning to say no.
that's huge.
That was like instrumental in just that baseline, planting little bitty seeds, if you will.
Did you see a shift when you started doing that, saying no and creating boundaries for yourself? Did you start
I started feeling more comfortable saying no, even though, I had doctors that were like, for instance, one of the oncologists that I met with, my personal connection with cancer. I have multiple family members that have had it. And every time they go through chemo, it kills them and breaks them down, or they end up developing new cancers. So for me, I was like, chemo is absolutely last resort. You could tell me that if I ingest skunk urine, it may help. And I would try that before I tried chemo. Like, as ridiculous as that was, I wanted to try everything before, because for me, chemo was the like nail in the coffin. Like, you're going to break down. And I was working so hard to build myself up. I didn't want one thing that was going to knock me down. So I actually had an oncologist this, that he was like, you know what? If you're not willing to do chemo, you're just signing your death certificate. And he walked out the door. And so I sat there and I was like, part of me was angry. And then part of me was like, you just showed me you're not the oncologist for me. And I walked out of there feeling so good about myself, which sounds asinine. I just got, ripped apart by somebody that specializes in osteosarcoma. And me and my stubbornness, I was like, nope, this is the way I want to do it. I'll find somebody that will help me.
And I don't know if that's amazing. And I don't know if this is like a male thing or if a doctor has been so set in their ways things. Because I've ran into doctors and medical help. The male ones would be so set. This is exactly what's going on. I'm like telling them, no, this is not what's going on. I am not tired. It's not, my fatigue is not from low iron. And they're like, you're still menstruating. That's what it is. But when you talk, and I've had female doctors, they're like, okay, let's look at it from this other aspect.
Yes.
And it's like, it's just, I don't know, it's a pattern I'm seeing. And how do I want to say this? The fact that you stood up and you knew in the moment that you're like, hey, he's not right for me. I need to find another one is just amazing.
I think a lot of times people will show us behaviors that tell us that they are not part of our tribe. They're not meant to be in our circle. And I think when it comes to whether it's the cancer community or, your regular work job, your personal life, a lot of times we make excuses for that level of behavior that we just, like in my case, he's a specialist in this. I should just listen to him. But I was not willing to have my health continued to push down because, I had no support system. Like it was me against the world kind of thing. And so I was like, I need somebody that's going to fight with me, not against me. And being able to just walk out of there being like, all right, buddy, F you, like you're missing out because I'm going to be a survivor. And I'm going to be a positive statistic, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to teach people, and I'm going to research because that's what my nerdy little brain does. I am going to do everything I can, but because I was willing to look at all these other possibilities, every time I dove into research, I ended up realizing I'm investing back into myself. All these other things that I'm learning, I'm empowering myself with knowledge. And so much of just the general medical community, we're kind of left in like this limbo or haze where they're like, oh, this is what you need. This is how many times you take it. We don't talk about the side effects or drug interactions or, all the other pieces that come with it because we just kind of blindly accept. And we don't do a lot of that deeper research to stand as a voice for our internal body.
Okay. And I love that. Investing in yourself. That was, what do you call it? Not a golden ticket. There's a term for it. It'll come back to me later. Anyways, so I want to step away from that in a second. I'm going to come back to that in my next question. But my first question, since you already started your business prior to being diagnosed, what made you kind of cross that path, be like, hey, I can start my own business. I think I can do this. Like, what was there a trigger moment, or was it something that's been in the making for a while? What made you finally just to jump the track from having a W-2 job to owning your own business?
So after I graduated from aesthetic school, I worked for another spa, and the abuse continued. It just wasn't physical. I, was required. I was classified as a 1099, but
Contractor.
I was required to sit there 40 hours a week and just wait for a walk-in, which is against IRS regulations.
Yeah, yes, it is.
And can I ask? Can I enter? What's a 1090? Like
it's
like
a contractor.
Contract.
It's like how I contract with like counseling clients as well. It's not like a contractor I am with the military. It's like as a contractor, I can take on clients from another company, but they can't dictate how many clients I'm supposed to see. So they're not supposed to dictate time and how much time effort you're supposed to put in with the clients. So I can take on as many or as little clients as I want. They can't tell me how many hours to work. So that's okay. Yeah.
So there were, and I saw like practices that completely went against our regulating board. Like it was just all these things. And I was like, if this is how the industry is run, I need to go do my own thing because I worked so hard for my aesthetics license that I didn't want to have a board, somebody from the board come in, do an inspection, and now my license gets stripped away because of how somebody else did it. And like looking back at it, I believe that was like that tipping point where I was starting to stand up for myself, and it kind of reaffirmed that putting your trust in the wrong people is only going to take you down further. So, and I didn't realize that until probably just a couple years ago because I was just like, no, I was protecting my license. But really, I think that was the universe, if you will, putting somebody in my path that could potentially be severely detrimental to me and the career that I was trying to create, all because, I didn't want to stand up or say anything or talk back because that never worked out well in my past. So, being able to look back at it and be like, oh my gosh, that one little thing, I was starting to create boundaries. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it the right way. And it may look like I was taking a step back because I went from working in a spa to I literally started working with a naturopath. And we've all been in doctor's offices. Those suckers are so tiny. And that's how I started my business, from basically a treatment room the size of a closet. And I've now been able to build everything, but I think it's because I started with such a solid foundation based on doing the right thing and, aligning with the right companies and being client focused, that the growth just naturally happened. Granted, it took a long time, but just by, standing and being comfortable to be like, you know what, I'm going to take on this challenge and I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be the one pouring into it. I'm going to set the standard. And now I just have this wonderful, flourishing, ever growing business that now feeds back into me. So it's no longer me worrying about okay, I got to do A before I do B. Now I can do A, B, C, and D. And now I have, all of that being fed right back into me. If anything, it probably pushes me to, dig in even more.
Yeah. And you made the comment about how some people would see that as a step back. I mean, reframing, it's not really a step back, maybe a lateral step, but that little tiny space was your space for you to plant that seed of this amazing company you have now.
Yes.
So.
And
you didn't compromise your values. You didn't compromise your integrity. You stood firm on it. And like you said, that seemed like that was your foundation, built that.
Yep. I had to learn to believe in myself and just take a chance on, you take a chance on success, but you also take a chance on failure. And I was okay with either outcome because I knew it was going to be on my term, which felt incredible. I no longer needed, Lena, just like you said, I no longer had to worry about compromising my morals or my ethics or anything like that. I got to set the standard and I got to say how I was treated. I got to say and how clients were treated. And it really started to give me that voice where it was okay, where it was okay to be able to say, no, we're not doing it that way. Or yes, I agree to that. And, when I first started, there were a lot of yeses because I was afraid to say no. So I had to get comfortable saying no. And sometimes it's still a struggle, but we're definitely far surpassing where, little Amanda from 15 years ago was.
Did you seek out, when you first starting out, support, like mentors, other people who did this on their own? What did you do to learn about how to run to get there?
Being completely transparent, I winged it because I had such deep-rooted trust issues that I was like, if I go through and I pay for a mentor, how do I know that they're not setting me up for failure? I was so afraid of somebody else trying to tell me what to do, even though it may be coming from the absolute best loving place. It didn't feel right for me. So God love research. I literally started diving in. I was looking at IRS rules and regulations, still trying to navigate this whole, social media AI realm because my career is focused on client. It's not focused on technology. Technology, I will 1,000% say technology and I are not friends. When you walk into a room and you see somebody that you don't get along with and you just don't even make eye contact anymore.
You have to take a deep breath.
You're like, oh God. So that's still an ongoing struggle, is that tech side of it, because I'm so touch and people focused. So at some point I definitely need to ask for help. In fact, last night I just asked my son, I was like, do you know how to do Instagram posts where you can add music? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, cool. Because I use a business suite where I go through, type in what I want to say, post it, and it's gone. I don't get all the other customizations and everything else because I didn't grow up in a social media world. So this stuff is truly like foreign language. So yeah, now I'm actually getting comfortable asking for help, and now I'm recruiting
It
my
sounds
kid to
like
be like, can you
80% of the
teach me?
conversations. Yeah. It sounds like 80% of the conversations me and Renee have on a daily basis.
You're just like, oh my gosh, why is it doing this? Like, so I tend to have more cuss out sessions with technology than any other part of my life.
But on the flip side, we were raising a generation before phone cameras, so we can deny
Yes.
anything. We can't confirm or
Yes.
deny
We
anything
are
we
the
did.
analog era.
Yes.
You
And it
can't
was
prove I
so
did
much
something.
easier.
So, but one of the questions I had when I was kind of thinking is like, okay, you started your business, you were diagnosed with the cancer. How did your values, how did your view of how to run your business or where you wanted to take your business, did that change after the diagnosis and after everything you went through?
I find that I actually poured more into my business because I needed to look healthy. I didn't need to, look tired, look sick, look like I was in pain. So again, with that storytelling, like, it was like, oh my God, yes, today's a great day. But by doing that, it kind of did that like little mind trickery because I'm pouring back into other people. And that truly is a love language for me. I mean, it brings me complete joy to be able to do that, and knowing that somebody trusts me to that level. Because I mean, let's be real, how many times do you just have some random stranger just grab your face, and that's it's like an intimate touch, and that requires a level of trust and compassion in order to do that in a non-intimidating way. I also, was by pouring back into them, and they would ask me, hey, how's treatment going? And I'm like, we're doing good, we're pushing right through. Tell me about your kids. Didn't you have the play? So it was a distraction for me, so I didn't have to sit in the it and all the worry and the fear that truly was a part of me. I had a healthy escape where I, for whatever hour that I was working with that client, I didn't have that scary cloud screaming at me. I got to just be focused on somebody else and their healing and their progress, whether, because, and Lena can testify to this, like, we don't just do skincare, like we solve the world problem. And if somebody would just ask us, for, how to fix it, we could do it, because we do it every single time.
They solve the world's problems one client at a time, one healing moment at a time. It is, I will put a little bit of testimony out there. My daughters found you. And I was given, and that was their gift to me, to have a session with you. And I never went away. I keep coming back. So, but Amanda does have this beautiful touch where, one, of course, it's a spa, it's an ambiance, but you can feel the genuineness of her, why she does what she does. And she is fully invested in you for that hour, however long there. And she, like, I never had a facial where then she goes down and massages. And so while I'm laying there. And when she did that, and then she's not just doing it, but it's like, you have a little bit of an inflammation happening. It's like she's a body talker too. So it's like she just really has your 100,000% like attention to you. She's focused from head to toe. So yes, she's doing a lot of beautiful work on the face, but she's down there. And that is the most intimate thing of service that you do to somebody, to go down there and massage there is something about that. And I was just like, and so yes, you can just, what she does is, not only is she just, because she is an international award-winning esthetician, like she's 10-time international finalist, the Skin Games, and she's won numerous awards, and she's been in demand by schools to come and teach as well. So she's and yet when you walk into her space, she's so grounded, like she's just so human. And there is something that happens there that's far beyond the facial service. It's just, she's a healer. So yes, they do. That place, I always call it's a heaven on earth. I swear it really is. So I just had to put it out there.
Well, and like, I wholeheartedly believe like healing is multifaceted. We have our mental health, we have, our trauma healing, we have our trust healing. I mean, like all these other things, and they don't have a look. Sometimes you just walk into a place where you're like, oh my God, I'm not wearing my shoulders as earrings anymore. What happened? Healing is a feeling. And, when you find a therapist, whether it be mental health, a, massage therapist, an esthetician, where when you can walk in and suddenly just by being there, you feel that safety and you feel that guard or that shell crumble from around you, that's a sign that you are in a place that is meant for you. If you walk into a place and you're immediately like, oh my God, you're like, turn around, run, scream, run, like energy doesn't lie. And, whether we're using energy for diagnostic, like Lena was talking about with reflexology, it's all about listening to the body because the body is constantly talking to us. It's just so many of us are so separated from our physical body that we don't pay attention because we think that this is like just a pretty, wrapping paper that, holds our organs together. And we don't take a moment to really connect back into ourselves and, ask the body, what is it that you need? What's hurting you? Where is that pain coming from? And by slowing things down and truly turning things internal, that's where healing happens. And when we heal the inside, the physical, emotional, pulling everything and pulling all that in, the outside changes. You can get anti-aging type improvement by shedding all of that trauma related weight, all those aches and pains that are stored in the body. If you go through and you start addressing those, all of a sudden, that depressor that, pulls and makes us look sad, all of a sudden that starts releasing. The body knows how to heal, but we fight against our body so much that we don't give the body an opportunity to heal. We don't give it a reason to heal because all we're doing is just packing more trauma into that trauma suitcase and, continuing to carry it with us. And then we complain about the aches and pains that we have, but we're not doing anything to resolve them. And that's where I built my entire practice is, bring all your luggage in here, drop it, because pardon my language, but none of that shit matters. For the next 60 to 90 minutes, that's going to be packed up. It's going to be over there. Leave it at the door because none of it matters. This is all about you. What is it that you need right here in this moment?
Right. And I kind of want to go back a moment though, when you were talking about, you were after the diagnosis, when you were going through all that, like just putting your focus and helping other people as a love language for you. And I kind of wanted to break that down a little bit because for someone who's been in the helping profession for a couple of decades, one thing I have learned for myself is when I help other people, I help myself at the same time. It's really interesting. Like I will get aha moments about my own life when I'm working with the client. And then I also just get that kick when I see that, like I call them aha moments go across my client's face, or when they finally things click, things start changing for them and they start improving, or they're like, hey, this is going great. Like I get a kick watching other people improve. It makes me feel better and makes me feel more grounded. And like I said, I also have I solve my own problems when I'm working with clients. I don't bring it up, but things just click as I'm working with other people. So after the session, I'm like, let's process this. And it helps me. Yeah.
1,000%. And, even going through and, having a client talk about, difficulties that they're having with a child. And usually it's those wonderful teen years that challenge a parent. But, by, talking through things with them, we're like, okay, have you thought about this? Have you tried this? And, talking it through. And then I'm like, oh my God, why have I not tried that with my own kid? But I never had that back and forth where I can go through and talk with another woman and be like, oh my God, we're having the same freaking struggle. Why are we not talking about it? Because so much of the feminine experience is this guarded, you have to look apart, you have to carry yourself a certain way. And heaven forbid, we don't talk about those dark places that we go into. That's reserved for your absolute best friend that you've had for 10 years, and then it's safe to start unloading, where all of us are going through struggles, and that is part of the human experience. It's in those dark places that you learn new skills. You start finding, oh, I didn't realize I was really strong in this area because it was never challenged. So you have to go through all that muck and mud and, where you feel like you're drowning in quicksand. It's in those moments where you're fighting that you actually find out how freaking strong you are. And we need to create more of a society where we can talk about those difficult things and talk about what helped, what didn't. And, rather, we do it with like mental health, where so many people think that if you see a therapist or a counselor, there's something wrong with you. And I am the type, I'm like, I think every single person should have a therapist or counselor or life coach. I mean, something to have a neutral third party to start having this volley back and forth, because so many times we feel like we're the only ones in the world that are going through something.
Right.
And when you start actually talking it through, you start learning, oh, that not enough, thought that's in there is in 85% of women, but we don't talk about it.
Absolutely.
I love it. She just summed up our last podcast, by the way.
Yeah, yes, you did. Because I think I even used, I said, yeah, I'm going to take my friend phrase, like we are not, like the not enough thing. Yeah, because that was to you. I didn't think. But yes, absolutely. Just talking
seed,
about it. Yeah.
Where like I planted a seed in you and now it's blossoming and now you're feeding and sharing that with everybody.
But yeah, absolutely, that we sometimes go into this turtle, like I call it, Fraggle Cake or Fraggle Rock. But I was like, yeah, I'm going to go
was
back
actually just singing the theme song of it last week. I can't tell you what I had for dinner 2 nights ago, but I still know the Fraggle Rock theme song.
And I feel like it's overwhelming. I'm back in my cave now. And, but to talk about it and like put our mask side and real, and we're not alone. And it helps normalize. All of us back, and we're not all. There are steps we talk about it. There's just okay, and then you have hearing, and it's helped shift your lens, start to perspective, reframing, and it's just to be able that is walk away. Okay, think and get helps that vague gut we talked about in our last podcast, listening to our gut. And Amanda, you said it weaved this beautifully throughout your story that it's like no matter what this special said or that, just because it didn't align with what you've.
I believe that like my body was telling me, no, don't give me that crap. Like fight, do whatever you can. I mean, I did. That's when I started getting introduced into like sound healing, and like it truly brought all these healing modalities to my doorstep that I never would have experienced before. So like cancer healed so many parts of me and gave me permission to grow, gave me permission to say no, and gave me permission to be like, you know what? Yes, I had cancer, but I'm a cancer survivor. Yes, I was a domestic violence victim. I'm no longer a victim. I'm now a survivor. Like I honor so many pieces that I was so ashamed of before, because I'm like, you know what? No. Yeah, I went through some crap, but if if you get to know me, even on a surface level, I am all about feeding back into other people. Growing up with such ugliness, whether it be, my parents, my husband, the family, all that other stuff, it would give me permission to be a shitty human being, to, just go out there and project all this evil because, well, that's what was done to me. So that's what I need to propagate back out. And I actively chose not to have that as part of my future, even though I had permission to do it. That wasn't true to me. And I started seeing that so many people that have ugly behaviors, they're actually hurting. And I'm a firm believer that hurt people because it's just a coping mechanism. If they're hurting, it's easier to project it back out. And I think that if we just provide a little bit of love and compassion, walking past somebody, smile, wave, oh my gosh, those shoes look so cute. Just anything positive, that could be that seed that helps that person start feeling seen. Because so many times you walk through a crowd and you're like, nobody even knows I'm here. And like, I'm 5'3", like people could trip over me. So, I have to be bigger. I have to carry myself with strength in order to be seen. And I am more than happy to share that strength, like a plague. I am all about like, hey, let's build an army of fighters and people that are out there spreading good through love, through language, through self-care, because those little things by showing love to yourself and others, it becomes this wonderful beautiful little ripple effect. And we have no idea how far that goes, but it starts with taking care of you.
Definitely.
Sorry, soapbox moment.
Okay.
No,
Feel
because
free.
because when you say taking care of you, so knowing you really are a getter a lot. But so how do you balance your personal life with the demand expanding? Just knowing you in the last years, wrong, coming at you. How do you balance personal?
So I feel like it's a trick question. I feel like I'm on blast because
I
it's
say
still
in the
a work in
most.
progress. So I definitely, over the last probably year and a half, I've definitely gotten significantly better at being able to, one, feel comfortable saying no. I know I've said that a couple times, but that was a huge thing for me because anytime I ever said no, it was met with aggression or something was my fault. So I didn't feel comfortable saying no. And I've definitely gotten better at that now. For a while, I was working literally 7 days a week. I pretty much probably could have moved into my spa and just been like, this is where I'm going to live now because I'm here anyway. And now I've really started to dial that back. I have made sure that my calendar is focused on the treatments that bring me the most joy and that utilize my skills, because just because I'm trained in something doesn't mean I have to build my business around that. Doesn't mean I have to offer that. It is perfectly okay for me to say, yes, I'm trained in that, but I refer that out to somebody else. Purely because like my calendar can only handle so much and my physical, emotional, mental health can only handle so much. Because like I said, we can go through and handle, help people work through all of their traumas. But as an empath, I have to make sure that I'm giving myself time to get back into my own energy. And that requires, time in between clients. Some clients require more time afterwards for me to get back into myself. And like with my husband, we went through like in October, we were like, okay, we really need to do like a road trip. We need to do something, get out together. And so I told him, I was like, let's take a look at my schedule, because we all know it's my schedule that usually that puts the limitations on us. Let's go through and find 5 to 7 days where we can just go have a road trip. We don't have to have a specific agenda, but let's get something on there. And like I said, this was in October, and the first stretch of 5 to 7 days that I had it's either June or July, but that's how far out my calendar booked. So it requires me to do more planning. It requires me to schedule time for me. This year I've started blocking out what I call admin days. So those are my days that, hey, I need to work on inventory, or, I need to sit and scream with marketing, or, whatever it is. But that way I'm not taking away from my day off, because for so long that was a part of my day was, okay, my day off, I'm doing all these other things for everybody else, but I wasn't pouring back into me. Just even sitting outside, like, we're in a rural area of Arizona. So like I'm sitting in front of a window right now and I've seen deer pass through 4 different times. But if I was busy taking care of all the other things, I wouldn't have that. I wouldn't have that experience. So giving myself permission to just be, instead of living in a state of doing, I intentionally schedule my being days. Sometimes it does turn into like couch troll in the jammies all day, and that's perfectly fine. In fact, last week I was talking with Renee and I told her, and I was like, no video because I'm still in my jammies. But that was also me standing for my bound, be like, hey, I am able to do this, but I'm not even getting out of my jammies today. So zero judgment.
And there was zero judgment there, because I totally understood that.
So I think as my business continues to grow and it doesn't need that constant hands-on, I'm able to start relinquishing a little bit. Even in the beginning, that was hard for me. So I had to start giving myself permission to like, okay, hands off a little bit, see what happens. Okay, I can back off a little bit, see what happens. Because I'm always there to retract and get back into total control. That's fine, but my business doesn't need it. And a lot of times when we have that stranglehold on our business, you literally choke the life out of it because you don't give it room to breathe and to have the pitfalls and the errors that can come, because that's where all that growth happens, is learning those pitfalls. So you're never going to start a business and not have a crummy day, or, start pursuing an adventure and it completely fall out from underneath you. That's the universe's way of saying, nope, pull back. Nope, you're going the wrong way. So you have to be willing to take those chances to fail. And in failure, it's not not a bad thing. I call them blessings. It's a blessing and a lesson. And so, give yourself the opportunity to have those blessings, because that is going to take you and your business so much further.
And I love that you brought that up, just giving up some control, because I think that's a huge aspect for women when they're starting businesses, that they want to do everything, every little aspect of the business. And it's hard for some women to give up some of that control, like certain tasks, to other people. And I think it's super vital because it also decreases burnout. It gives you also that downtime to have more creativity, to learn, like to try something else with your business, to try a different avenue that will help grow it, having that downtime for self-care as well, right? So I love that you brought that up.
It sounds
one
like
of the things, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, where she was talking about burnout, I just thought that was a normal part of business ownership. Like, you're not doing good unless you're burning out and you're ready to like throw in the towel, because that was my exposure, where I was like, yeah, you have to feel like everything is all on you. You have to dig in and you choose if you're going to, take it up, or if you're just going to let it, take you down. So I just thought that was part of it. And it wasn't until I was like, oh, I don't have to feel the weight of the world sitting on my shoulders. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to be like, you know what? This isn't a strength of mine. Who can I reach out to help?
Right.
Like in my experience, that actually shows so much more strength than somebody that is just in that stranglehold, white knuckling, trying to do anything and everything that they can possibly do, whether they're doing it right or wrong. They refuse to just let things breathe a little bit.
Absolutely. It's like trusting the process. So you've done the work, but you don't have to break your body, your spirit, mind over. That's not the measure of how hard you work. You worked hard, you built that foundation. And it seems what I'm hearing is like trusting process. Or
well, like as my trust issues have continued to kind of drop down a little bit, then it feels better being like, hey, I've done all these other things. These things here are where I need help. And now I'm learning that I can trust people. And does it always go exactly the way that I want? No. Sometimes I'm completely let down, and that's just a part of the human experience. Or sometimes I'm like, okay, I asked for this, but what they gave was so much more than I ever even thought possible. But I wouldn't have had that if I didn't take a chance on asking for help.
Yeah. And I love how you brought up like that expectation that owning your own business is the same, like you're just supposed to be expected to burn out with it. And the one thing I've learned is, you always hear them say with your own business, you're going to be working more than 40 hours a week. And that was such a negative thing. And I was like, my experience in the past, I'm like, yes, but there was less pressure on me. I felt better than working 50 hours a week with my own business than I did 40 hours a week at a job, because it was my baby growing. I had this passion. There was positive things coming from it. There was a lot more positivity. So to me, I'm like, yeah, I'm spending a little bit more time with it, but I feel a lot less pressure than I did just growing someone else's pocketbook, someone else's like,
you're doing what you love.
Yeah. Doing what
and like, I don't even call like my business, it's not my job. It's my passion project. Like you've talked about, reframing and everything. Like this is where I pour the true me into everything, where, okay, the decor, there are specific things in there that have been gifted to me from other countries, that have been gifted to me from clients that are no longer among the earth. I mean, just everybody that I meet leaves an imprint on me. And I feel like I need to honor them, their gift, their energy, by keeping that loving energy in my room. Like that belongs in their happy place. So I'm still keeping them with me. And I realize that sounds gruesome, but these people are absolutely incredible, and they can 100% be a part of my life and my room energy, and keep pouring that loving energy right back out, because all it's going to do is continue to grow all that love in there anyway.
I think it's beautiful. I don't think it's gruesome. Beautiful to honor that energy, that passing forward and paying that honoring.
So I know, like, now that knowing what you've known about running a business, starting your own business, what would be something, either like a hard lesson you've learned that you wish everyone would start before they started their journey, or maybe something that if you could speak to your younger self about it, what would you tell her at the beginning of this journey?
So as far as starting the business, get a mentor. And even if it's, hey, can I meet up for coffee? What were some of the struggles that you had? How'd you overcome them? You don't always need a roadmap, but sometimes it's kind of good to know what speed bumps may be ahead, because sometimes you can defer from from them. Sometimes you have to go through them in order to actually, we got to go through, we got to get wings. We got to, figure out a way to get over this.
Yeah.
So you can't stay away from every pitfall. And even when you have those pitfalls, look for what it's trying to teach you. As far as like talking to my younger self, in just about every aspect of my life, I would say trust yourself, honor your voice, and don't be afraid to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. It's actually more of a sign of strength. Where, if you would have asked me, 10, 15 years ago, what would you have told yourself? I would have been like, don't trust anybody. Like and that was my knee jerk, because that was that guard that I had put up. But it was because I needed to reframe it. I needed to trust myself. And, when you get those spidey senses that something isn't right, take a moment, pause, look into it. What's it trying to tell you? Because so many times there are signs of impending issues. It's not always doom, but there are signs of upcoming things that you can see. And sometimes if we just change the way that we look at it, if we go through and reframe what we call it, sometimes we can take that power back. So rather than, trying to shut everybody out, get in there, start networking, honor your story. I could have come in here and been like, everything was great. I never had a single struggle, but like I needed to be real, because I didn't have the silver spoon in my mouth. I didn't have the white picket fence story. And, I can honestly say for years, I was probably super reinforced more than Fort Knox can ever, even try to be, because I was so heavily guarded, trying to shut everybody else out, that I created my own loneliness because of it. And it wasn't until I was like, I need to be unapologetically me. Like, I am authentic. Like, choose to, embrace the struggles and honor the story, or you're creating this isolation of reclusiveness that is highly detrimental to you. And there are people out there that need to know the story. There are people that can connect with not having everything lined out for you. And being real and being authentic to yourself and your mission for what you want your business to accomplish, as long as you stay true to that, it will form. It may take 2 years, it may take 20 years, but you can't force that. The only thing that you can do is just remain consistent.
Right. All right. I do have a couple more questions though. All right. So I'm on your website. So I'm going to gear this a little bit towards your business. So I know Lena is very familiar with everything you do. I have never been to do a facial esthetician.
Oh,
so
you are so missing out.
So that was kind of my one question. I was like, okay, what do I expect when I come? But I saw brow lamination on your website. What is that?
So brow lamination, like, people will go through and like, brush up their brows and get them, so every single hair is like right in the right spot. That takes a lot of time every single day. Brow lamination, think of like, back in the 90s with that wonderful perm solution that we had, or maybe 80s. I don't know. There's been a few decades in between. But we're like, okay, I want to keep this. That's what brow lamination does, is it actually goes through and creates a hold for each individual hair. So it actually is staying exactly perfectly placed.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
And it
All right,
changes face. Like,
brows will make or break a face.
It enhances all the beauty
1,000%.
in you that's already there.
It highlights the eyes, and I am a firm believer
I'm
that the
thinking about
eyes are
doing
the
it.
portal to the soul. So if you want to share your soul and share your light, you got to embrace the brows.
Brows. Nice. All right. So for someone who's very green and new to all this, what would be a really good first step to come in and the first thing to do? Intro.
Always, anytime that you book for the first time with somebody, make sure that they include a skin consultation. Don't jump into those harsh, because everybody wants to beat holy tarnation out of their skin, thinking that, just a really heavy chemical peel and ta-da, all my pigment will be gone. It doesn't work like that. This is an organ. It absorbs, it excretes. It has a multiple purposes. It's not pretty wrapping paper. So make sure that there's a skin consultation that's included. And honestly, start with something relaxing. Don't try to get into like the correctives and the really aggressives, because if your skin isn't properly prepped, I equate it to like going to the gym. When you first step into a gym for the very first time, gym? Are you deciding to go, bench press 400 pounds? No, you're going to hurt yourself. So that's something you need to work up to. So we're kind of like the personal trainers for the skin.
Nice. All right. Good to know. And you said Litchfield. Okay. I'm going to have to make an appointment.
Come hang out.
Need to do.
I would say you could ask Lena if she wants to give up one of her appointments, but I think Lena might go WWE on you.
I'm sorry. I booked mine out. Like they are so.
A year.
I mean, because I moved away. They were used to be 5 minutes away from me, and then lo and behold, I moved to Tucson. Whole story. And I will go up there to drive just to see them and drive back. I will not give them up. And so I book out like a year. Like we do this routine. Yeah.
Yep.
So make your appointment, but you're not taking one of mine.
So we go through and
sorry.
We line everybody up.
Yeah.
All right.
And Renee, if you are looking for someone in the Tucson area, I have people that I can refer you to that I can personally vouch for. So, or you can have road trip and you can come play with me.
Well, I was thinking the road trip because I do go up to the valley because my life is still up in the valley. It's still up in Tempe area, and so I go up every other weekend for family. And my doctors are still up there. Like I have everything is still up there. I refuse to set up anything down here.
And that's okay. That's home base. So you can always return to home base.
And that is my plan for this next year is to return to home base. And so that's why I don't want to set up anything here.
So I happen to know a really fun spa and great estheticians that I can put you in contact with up here in the valley.
Okay. Wink, wink. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
It is one of the greatest gifts you can give. So as Amanda said, organ that we lack just and is a great teacher. But yeah, I really want to thank you doing this with us, taking the time out of business. I know you're in demand, but want stuff from me all the time. And it was just a true blessing to have this first guest. I believe in you so much, doing so much joy, much care, just so much love.
One treatment at a time, we change the world and sprinkle that love and just hope that it continues to have that ripple effect. And, we need permission to have self-care because so many people consider self-care as selfishness. And it is absolutely the exact opposite. And, whatever self-care looks like to you, you have permission to prioritize yourself. Because if you go through and you take care of yourself, whether it's, going for a walk, going for a hike, having a massage, whatever self-care looks like for you, you become a better person if you are whole, if you are taking care of you. So don't ever let anybody tell you that if you're taking care of yourself, that you're being selfish, because I hear it from some clients and I'm like, I will challenge that because self-care, you need to be a whole complete human being in order to pour that love and compassion and the patience that our society needs. In order for you to pour that back out, it starts with you first. If you are not number one on that, really need to reevaluate.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes. And thank you again for being our guinea pig, our first one, like Lena said. So excited. So I think that kind of wraps it up. I was going to say, does anyone have any questions?
So to anyone out there who's listening, you can go online. It's www.lovingmyspa.com about all that they offer. And we'll be putting her information out there in our description and YouTube. Well.
And I think by the time this episode comes out, we're going to have the Instagram up. So obviously we're going to have a post on her on that as well. So follow us on Instagram. And then we're also going to have the LinkedIn up as well. So if you are part of LinkedIn, make sure you check us out on LinkedIn as well. So
I'm so excited for you guys.
Thank you. So, and thank you all for listening. Again, please subscribe, follow us on the we have various platforms on podcasts. If there's any kind of topics you guys want us to make sure we cover, definitely email us. Let us know at athenaslisteningcrew@gmail.com. Or if you would like to share your story with us and your journey of having your own business, please email us as well.
That's here. Give space for you.
Yes, we got you guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.